the other person could have, let's say, a red mark or a scratch. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is David Kohlmeier, the problem solver. Thank you so much for joining us today. Every single week, I try to solve problems, whether small or large. As a retired police officer of 17 years, working in Henderson and New York City, my goal is to help people in Clark County, Las Vegas, Henderson, North Las Vegas, even throughout the United States. If you have a problem, I'd like to solve it. If I can't solve it, I have other problem solvers to basically help solve your problem. Every single week, like I said, we have special guests. Today, I have an amazing guest today. Today, I have Chris Henderson to the left of me. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So Chris basically is a partner over at the Richard Harris Law Firm, and I wanted to bring him on the show because he's got a wealth of knowledge in regards to personal injury and accidents. Been doing this for a long time, and he basically, in my eyes, is the heart of the operation. You take that heart out, basically, you know, the place could wind up blowing up. So to me, it was really special to have you basically come on the show today, and I want to also learn more about you, which I haven't really done, and that's why I wanted you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for the kind words. I'm happy to be here.
So, Chris, tell me, I want to get a little bit of background. I always ask people for the little bit of bio, like where you're from originally. I guess tell me a little bit more about yourself so people know.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Seattle, Washington, and I moved to Las Vegas after law school. I went to college at the University of Washington and did law school at Gonzaga University in Spokane. And then about halfway through my law school, I came down and started working for the Richard Harris Law Firm as basically an intern, a law school intern. And just, now we're in, 15, 16, 17 years later, and I'm still there.
So you've been in the Richard Harris Law Firm for 17 years?
Well, I had a hiatus.
Okay.
We can get into that. I had a hiatus where I was actually an FBI agent for 4 years. So
question to you. So when you were an intern, so you went through law school, you leave law school, right? And then you're interning at the Richard Harris Law Firm?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of background. I was born and raised Mormon, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I went on a mission. I started out, it's actually an interesting story. I started out in, I think it's interesting. They just tell you where you're going.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I had taken Japanese in high school and knew it pretty well. And so the church sent me to Sapporo, Japan.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I had to have a surgery done. And when you have a surgery and you're overseas, they basically give you the option, especially in Japan, because it's so the medical treatment there is so good. They said you can stay here and have the surgery and continue in Japan, recover and continue, or you can go home and we'll reassign you to a mission in the United States, and it'll probably be a Japanese-speaking mission. At the time, I think the only Japanese-speaking missions were L.A. and New York that had Japanese-speaking missionaries. So I took the U.S. option. I came home, had surgery at home, recovered at home, and was waiting for the letter to say, you're heading to New York or L.A., and the letter I got said, we're sending you to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which is obviously not, they don't have Japanese-speaking missionaries in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And what ended up happening was I met Rick Harris's son, Josh, on my mission. That was in the late 90s. I met Josh on the mission. He was there as well, and we just became best friends. And that was my connection to Vegas. I'd never been to Vegas before. Okay. Had obviously never met Rick or Josh, and that's how I
That's interesting.
Met them.
So how long were you in Japan for?
About 4 or 5 months, maybe.
So did you learn the language?
Yeah. It's crazy. I look back my last, there's church service every Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I remember my last Sunday in Japan, I was actually the featured speaker at the church service. And I look back on that now and I think I gave a 20-minute, doctrinal
in Japanese,
in full Japanese,
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, and I still retain a lot of it. When I hear Japanese spoken, I understand what's being said, but I can't speak it all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's actually funny. I have two quick funny Japanese situations, stories. Well, one yesterday, we actually filmed a girl. Her name was Sonia. Okay. And she's like this TikTok sensation. She's got like 13 million views. Okay. She's actually Mexican and Japanese.
Okay.
And we talked about Japan, about if she got into a car accident in Japan, how that would work and how it would work in Mexico. So it was very interesting. I was sending the video. She said in Mexico, basically, she'll get hit and basically they'll take off.
Gotcha.
Like in Japan, they'll like come out, they'll say, I'm sorry. They would give you money, give your name, your insurance, whatever they got going on. But it was funny because she speaks Japanese and Mexican, and she looks Japanese, but she speaks Mexican. She speaks Spanish. I'm Mexican. She speaks Spanish. And she has all these followers, I think, in South America and in Mexico, and her family's from Mexico City, and then also Japan. But it was very interesting because, she's Japanese looking and she's speaking Spanish, and she's got all these followers and the people following. So I asked her if she was in like Mexico City, if she said to come to a spot for like free tacos, how many people would show up? And she said probably 1,000 to 3,000 people would show if she said to show.
Wow.
So it was interesting with Japanese. Also with myself, I actually thought, so I was going to school originally for healthcare administration, and I basically wanted to take Japanese. I thought it was a great idea. I'm 45 now, and I was in college at 18. I was like, let me take Japanese because basically, like the future could be like you're Asian or Japanese have money or something. I don't know where I came from. So I was taking Japanese in school, and I was also working in a hospital, and I missed a few classes. And I remember one day I came into class and like, Kohlmeier-san, they basically said to go and do the alphabet on the board. And I was like, oh my God, like there's no way I'm doing it. I missed too many classes. I'm not studying it. I was like, I think I have to drop out of the class. I think I just walked out of the class and said, I'm sorry, this is not for me. And I really was hoping that, it's a hard language.
Yeah.
I mean, how'd you learn it?
Well, I was lucky because the area of Seattle that I grew up in, it's an area they call it now Shoreline. At the time, it wasn't its own city. It was incorporated part of Seattle. Okay. But now it's its own city. It's called Shoreline. My high school had a high percentage of folks from Asia. So, most high schools offer, Spanish and French or whatever. But my high school offered Japanese. It offered Chinese.
Okay.
So I just thought it would be a great fit for me to learn Japanese. So I did it for 3 years of high school and knew it pretty well. And then when you go into the missionary, they call it the Missionary Training Center in Provo, Utah. And before your mission, every missionary goes. They have different ones now, but at the time, that's where you went.
Like language and culture.
Correct. And if you're going to like a U.S. Mission, you're with a group of probably 8 or 10 people that are all going to that mission. But when I went, there was only 2 of us going to where I was going to in Japan. So the point was, I learned it so well because you're there for 2 months. If you go into an English-speaking mission, you're only there, I think, for maybe 2 weeks.
Okay. So
I was there for 2 months, and we had just the 2 of us in class all day long with 3 different teachers, and it was just immersive, And I've read that, even some of the foreign service, like CIA and that, they've actually gone out and learned the program that the Mormon Church does with the missionaries.
Linguistics?
Yeah, linguistics and just how to learn the language quick. So I've read that places. I don't know if that's
you took Japanese it was high school?
High school, yeah.
Okay. So here's a question for you. Did they know that you spoke a little bit of Japanese when the mission, because I like the fact that you get like randomly picked. I've seen that on like social media with some of the people from Richard Harris Law Firm, where they get selected, they open up the envelope where they're going. So did you think you got selected because you spoke a little bit of Japanese?
Yeah, so it's funny you asked that. When I did the application, I almost did not put that on there.
Thinking that they would?
Just because I didn't want it to be, you're going to Japan because you speak Japanese and it's a lot easier.
You wanted more of the random place.
Yeah, so, but I put it on there because...
That's interesting.
So
I like that story. All right, so basically you go to Japan, you come back, you go to Pennsylvania, you meet Josh Harris, who's the son of Richard Harris and owner of the Richard Harris Law Firm. So you basically, what made you decide to come over to basically Vegas? You decided, they said, hey, come on over.
Yeah. So here's the story. We get done with the mission, and Josh and I just become best friends. Josh was going to school up by where I actually started. I did my first. I said I went to UW, which was accurate. I graduated from UW, but I started at BYU. When I got back from the mission, I did 1 year at BYU, and Josh was up there going to school, and we just hung out constantly, and I'd come to Vegas. And a little bit of background on Rick, the owner of the firm. He's had a couple firms over his 40 years of practice here in Nevada, and he had a big firm, real large firm called Maynard Harris back in the 90s and early 2000s, and that firm broke up essentially, for lack of a better word. And so Rick rebuilt the firm as the Richard Harris Law Firm. And when I started in 2005, Josh was finishing up his last year of law school, and I was 1 year behind him. And him and another one of our buddies, Dave Bohr, were essentially the first few lawyers at the firm. When I started as an intern in 2005, I think there were 6 or 7 people in our big building.
Got it.
And, Rick has built the firm. 2021, we have roughly 120 employees. We grew out of the building again such that we ended up buying a building across the street. And it's an incredible operation. I'm really proud and privileged to work there. And Rick and Josh have become family to me. And Rick's my second dad, I always say, and Josh's best friend and a brother.
Awesome. It's amazing.
So
it's hard to find those, type of good people and good friends.
Yeah.
It's definitely, unusual situation sometimes when you find certain people that way. If you weren't on the mission, right, you would never.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I brought that up. I mean, it's interesting to me. Maybe other people don't find it interesting, but, I think it was a little bit of fate. You never know why things happen, but they told me, doesn't it make sense? I speak fluent Japanese. You're the Mormon church. You're trying to get, value out of me in a particular location. You'd think they'd send me to some place where I spoke Japanese, and then out of the blue, I end up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and meet Josh, who's
I don't think there's any Japanese people my cousin was from Pennsylvania.
So we become lifelong friends, and we've just had a great relationship for the last, 22, 23 years.
Awesome. So when did you, the biggest things that people don't know about you in general, that you became an FBI agent, what years was that?
Yeah, so what's funny is, funny to me, when I first came to Vegas the first time, I saw the firm, and I met Rick, and I saw Josh, and I saw what life was like in Vegas, and I was like, this seems like it could be a whole lot of fun. But at the time, I wanted to be an FBI agent, and as soon as I got to know Josh and Rick, and I just said, I got to be a lawyer and work. Josh used to say, you got to come work for me and my dad. And so that was an exciting opportunity. And then I just kind of redirected from being an FBI agent, to law school. And honestly, law is one of the ways to get into the FBI. So FBI was always kind of like a fallback if the firm didn't work out. That's always a way to get into the FBI. So to answer your question, I was working for the firm I started in 2005. Roughly about 2007, the firm started growing. And at the time, I was handling litigation cases and pre-litigation cases. And for folks that don't know much about personal injury, okay, but when we first sign up a case, that's considered pre-litigation, okay? Typically, most motor vehicle cases are just people think, I don't want to sue somebody. You're not really suing somebody right off the bat. If you hit me and I'm injured, I'm making a claim. That's why you have insurance. I'm making a claim against your insurance policy. We can talk more about that if you have questions about it. And we do everything we can to get you the medical treatment you need, and then we send what we call a demand letter, which is simply just a letter that argues, in my scenario, I was the one injured, that would argue, you're at fault for hurting me. These are my injuries. I'm entitled to be compensated for my medical expenses, my time off work, my pain and stuff, any damage that you have as a result of that. If for some reason, let's say there's a dispute about the incident or such that they're denying liability, then you get into a situation where you actually have to file a lawsuit and it becomes a litigated case at that point. So they're two very different animals. Mm-hmm. Pre-litigation and litigation. Pre-litigation is all about, this is what I get to wear to work each day. I'm talking to clients constantly. I'm talking to doctors constantly. It's a hustle. It's really intensive, and when we were prepping for this show, I couldn't put my phone down. It's just a constant, beast. Litigation is very slow. It's filing this paperwork, and then they have 30 days to reply, and then sitting in a deposition that takes 8 hours, or sitting at court and having a motion heard, and at court you go down with 30 other cases and you sit there until your case is called. And it used to drive me crazy sitting in that courthouse waiting 3 hours
to get called.
up. So I just the point of all that is I really did not like litigation at all. And I told Rick and Josh, I love you. I want to stay here. I love Vegas, but I've been kind of quietly pursuing the FBI. And at this time, I had made it well into the process, and they were just super excited about it and very, very supportive. And so
that's great.
I left in 2008 to go be an FBI agent.
You know, it's so funny. I feel like I'm getting so old now because I'm 45 now. I feel like I'm still 26, 22, you know.
Yeah.
But you said 2008.
Yeah.
I actually became NYPD officer July 1st, 1998.
Oh, wow.
And then basically I came out here in 2002, became a Henderson cop, went through another police academy. But I feel so old when I hear people saying these like years. You know? But the bottom line is, okay, so 2008, you were in FBI.
Yeah, I went to Quantico. I started
academy.
in Quantico, I believe it was December of 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And for folks that don't know, I mean, they hear Quantico on these shows, and Quantico is actually a Marine base, and the FBI has their training facility on the Marine base. And at the time, my training there, it's 6 months. It's a long time just to train, you know. It was hard to be away from family.
Because you lived there as well. Because NYPD base, it was like 9 months, but I went home every day.
Yeah, you don't go home every day. So, yeah, so you... What is interesting, it's a campus, so you get done... The nice thing is you get done with class or whatever you want to say. There's like 8 different... there's like 8 different things you do. You go to class each day. You learn about, you know, the law part of it. You do defensive tactics, which is, you know, training in a gym. You do... A lot of people don't know there's this really cool place called... I believe it's called Hogan's Alley, which is an actual fake town. The FBI hires actors, and you go over there and... Role play. Do all sorts of, you know, simulations, and it's really kind of fun. Yeah, so that's 6 months long, and what I was getting at is some people stay on campus and stay there the whole time, but you can leave once class is over at 5:30 or 6. You were allowed to go, and you just had to be back by midnight. Got it. So,
but it's like a college campus, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it's
more intense.
Yeah, it's just it was really, really. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I mean, my class started with 50. We started with 50 people, and my class graduated 23 of the 50.
Just 23 out of the 50?
Yeah.
Because dropped out, or right?
Quit, dropped out, failed.
You know, it's interesting. I'm sure you had this. I've been to 2 academies. I always say East Coast Academy and the West Coast. But you know what's interesting? I always laugh because I always had maybe 15, 20 pounds to lose, even though I probably lost the weight in the academy and NYPD. Yeah. But there's always guys that are like really physically fit and like really a guy that's really good shooter, you know?
Right.
And I always say that they're a little bit cocky, right? Like, it's all like German Shepherds, like German Shepherds being a cop. But the funny thing is you got to be well-rounded in everything. Like, you can't just be the amazing shooter because you're not shooting everybody every day, right?
Right.
So the bottom line is you got to learn how to speak to people, verbal judo, defensive tactics. So a lot of people don't understand. Like, people are like, oh, I want to become a cop. I want to become an FBI agent. Like, it's first of all, it's not so easy just to get the phone call.
Yeah.
To get, even get on the list, get the phone call, go through an academy, pass the academy, then come out, field training, right, and all this stuff. Like, people just think it's like a UPS job.
Yeah, it was just training for it alone. I mean, I'm a fairly fit guy, but it's an exhaustive.
Mentally too. I mean,
it's mentally exhaustive. The physical test to get in and to just get into the FBI was very, very challenging for me. You get 3 tries at it. I failed the first 2 and actually passed the third one. And actually, a story from that about my background, just so you can get to know me. While I was training for the FBI, I didn't even know if I'd make it to the FBI because I was training so hard here in Vegas, physically, just trying to get ready for it. And I made the mistake of taking Advil a little bit too much. Some ibuprofen. Mm-hmm. And
you were like prepping and you were
I just didn't know. Yeah, and there's this really strange, rare thing. It's called rhabdomyalysis.
Okay.
Which essentially your body starts eating itself. And at the end of my 3rd try at the physical, that I actually passed it. About an hour or 2 later, I literally went unconscious and I was taken to Southern Hills Hospital. I had complete kidney failure. Jesus. When I woke up, I think it was a day and a half later, they said, you might be on dialysis the rest of your life. We're not sure your kidneys will ever come back. I was there for a week. there's really no treatment for it. They just hooked me up to IVs and just flood you with fluid.
This is just as you were prepping to basically go in, right?
Yep. Well, as I was prepping to go to FBI.
I remember taking Motrin too. Like I was running a lot and I was getting the shin splints.
Yeah.
What was the reason why you were taking the Motrin? It was Motrin?
It was sometimes
Ibuprofen?
Yeah, just ibuprofen.
Because they always say it's not good for your stomach. It eats away your stomach and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, just.
But you were prepping so much, being prepared.
Yeah.
And then also a little bit of like pain, you know, or you know.
Yeah, just trying to recover from the.
Got it. Yeah. No, I remember.
movement.
I remember running like it was yesterday, getting ready for like mile and a half run that you have to do in like 12 minutes or to pass. And I remember taking like Motrin, getting shin splints. I remember even going to what do you call that? Some Asian. What do you call that? What do you call that stuff? They put the
acupuncture.
I went for like I was doing everything because I was getting shin splints on my knees and I was a lot of pain, so I was doing stuff in the academy even. But it's not easy. The bottom line is, but it's amazing. So basically, you got through the academy, you become an FBI agent. Where they place you?
Yeah, so that's one of the benefits.
That's the other nervous spot is like where they place you. Now you anywhere.
And that was one of the benefits of working for Rick. So now what they do with the FBI is they.
There's like three. You asked for three places, right?
But they classify you into a certain category. I forget what they all are now. One of them's Regions? When you're in the academy, they figure out what they think you would be good at, and you're either labeled a criminal agent, you're labeled a counterterrorism agent. There's counterintelligence. There's tech. I forget what the other one is. But anyways, I was labeled a counterterrorism agent, and they give you a list, and basically you rank all of them. At the time, there's 56 main FBI offices around the country, and underneath each main office, they have what they call resident agencies, which are little tiny offices, and the vast majority of new agents go to one of the 56 main offices, and they get put on a squad that only does one particular crime or violation, typically. But what I was getting at with the Rick and Josh experience was because Rick, he's so entrepreneurial, and I was running my own caseload, and as a new lawyer at Rick's office, I had a couple really, really serious cases that were all over as a brand new lawyer, that were all over the news here in Vegas. And my point is, it was just he gave so much freedom to be entrepreneurial and do my own thing and basically run my own business, essentially my caseload under the firm umbrella. It was
kind of like a book of investigative business.
Yeah, so
you're right. If it's an accident, right, you're investigating, you're doing things.
Yeah, and so when I got in the FBI saw that I had that background. And my point is that I was the only, if I recall, I was the only person in my class that got sent to a resident agency. So instead of going to one of the 56 big offices, I went to a tiny little field office in Eugene, Oregon, which was really cool because when you're in a little office, you do all the violations. You're not on a squad that only does one
got it.
particular thing.
That's cool.
So it gave me incredible experience, and I'm sure someone in the FBI said this guy could be able to handle being on his own and handling,
So how long were you an FBI agent? 3 years? 4?
Yeah, like 3.5, 4.
So did you like it? I know that so basically you decided to leave. You liked it, but you decided to go. Like, what was the reason why? Like with me, from being NYPD, I wanted to make more money. No state tax, no city tax. I came out here, it was like nicer. You could buy a home that was cheaper. Like kind of things are newer. But I went to another police academy, another policing job. What made you decide like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to go back to the law firm.
Yeah. So what's funny is I used to call. Sometimes you do like you're doing surveillance or whatever, and you're sitting in your car as an FBI agent for 8 to 10 hours at times. And I used to call in the firm at the time. After I left, we had an attorney meeting every Tuesday from it used to be, now it's at 1:30 in the afternoon, but it used to be at 6 at night and go till 10 o'clock at night. I used to call into the firm attorney meetings and just participate, when
fun.
I'm doing. So
FBI participating in the Richard Harris law firm.
I'm being a little bit over dramatic about it, but I used to just call in.
Because you missed it a little bit.
Yeah, I missed it. That's the point. Is I kept contact with them, and obviously kept contact with them, and they're my best friends. And I had many senior agents. Not trying to brag about what I did or the experiences I had, but I had many senior agents tell me, you've done more in 3.5, 4 years than most people do in a career at the FBI. And my point is I kind of got it out of my system. I got the experiences I wanted. I just felt like I needed to come back to Vegas. I mean, I miss Josh, I miss Rick, I miss the firm. I wanted to get myself, back here.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great time in the FBI. I have a lot of great friends. We were just at I just took the family to Newport Beach last weekend for a little vacation, and we were at Disneyland, and I happened to run in out of the blue. I've been gone now for 7-8 years. I ran into one of my training agents. I hadn't seen him or talked to him in 7 or 8 years, and I'm standing in line at one of the Star Wars rides, and look over, and I was like, Chris, and he looked at me and goes, Chris, and we, and it was really, really cool getting to talk to him. And
That's
so
awesome.
I have a lot of good friends at the FBI still, and
Can you tell the story when you jumped out of the helicopter and you landed and you saved the president? And
No.
So that's awesome. I mean, look, the bottom line is, like, a lot of people want to be FBI agents and do this. At least you got to do it. You know what I'm saying, in general.
Yeah.
And the same thing, I think, once you do something in life, like I was a cop for 17 years, eventually it gets a little old. You know what I'm saying? It's like anything else.
Yeah, and couple more points. I, since you were a cop, you'll understand this. I had a lot of great experiences because I was in a small office. I worked a lot with the local police, and I just had a ton of fun working with the local police. And I kept thinking, I might have been better off when I was younger if I hadn't met Rick or Josh, done that, just being a police officer. And then the other thing too that I want to mention, the second thing, is that remember when I was telling you about the fact that the firm used to have pre-litigation and litigation? Mm-hmm. So around the time I came back, the firm decided to divide and have lawyers that just do pre-litigation and lawyers that just do litigation. Mm-hmm. And that was something that was very exciting to me to come back, because then I could just do pre-litigation only. And I handled cases for, I handled cases for four years or so. And then slowly over the last 2 or 3 years, I've grown and started taking on more responsibility. And now I don't have any cases. I just manage our intake staff, which is all the folks that take all the new client calls and meet all the new clients, and also our pre-litigation department, which is our attorneys, our case managers that assist the attorneys, and some other folks.
Got it. So long story short, you're basically back at the firm. By the way, I'm not sure. This is a new edition of the Real Vegas magazine, and I noticed actually earlier today I was meeting with Real Vegas that these lovely people inside with their new marketing is inside. Those good-looking guys over there.
Yeah.
I think we have to get your good-looking face up there in the middle.
I'm quiet.
You're not into the magazines.
I'm quiet.
We'll put you behind the back there. But anyway, I noticed in the Real Vegas magazine, it actually just came out, Magnificent Men 2021, basically Richard Harris Law Firm. Second largest wrongful death, jury verdict, $38 million. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
Nevada's largest and highest rated injury law firm, 70204s. All right, awesome. So the bottom line is you're back at the Richard Harris Law Firm. I mean, first of all, I think it's amazing in regards to just your background experience. You got a chance to be FBI. You did that, like I said. Like to me as well, I've done it. I think it's great. I always felt as well, like I did look at the FBI, DSS, maybe looking at the embassies. I was looking at all that stuff, but I wanted to basically be like more in a hometown, have a family, and, it worked out for me. But I'm not sure if you know, I was NYPD for 3 years. Mm-hmm. I actually got called for MTA Police in New York City, Grand Central Terminal, Penn Station, the terminals. Mm-hmm. I actually went over to New York State Police. I actually resigned NYPD. Next day got sworn in as New York State Police. Mm-hmm. I did that for 9 months. I worked 9/11. I was across the bridge when the towers went down. Stayed there for 9/11 September. Came out in February. Went through a new academy in 2002. Mm-hmm. And then basically was a cop for 13 years doing community policing. Then I retired about 6 years ago. So, but like I said, I went through 2 police academies, 3 police agencies, and I'm glad how it worked out, because in general, I got different experiences. I was down there for 9/11 in the towers and stuff like that. So, but people just don't realize how hard it is. But anyway, so you're back at the firm now, which is great. Yep. I mean, I know that you basically, you're 24/7, which is amazing, because they're lucky to have you, because it's hard to find good people, as you know. Basically being in a law firm. Yeah.
Couple points. I laughed when you said they need to get my face on there. It's funny, because I do the pre-litigation stuff, and I'm not people don't know who I am, because I'm not at court, I'm not mingling with the
Got
other attorneys. You know, I'm not down there at these motion hearings, you know, and meeting all the attorneys. So, you know, a lot of people don't actually know who I am.
I mean, the bottom line is you're answering calls all day long. You're basically to
Yeah.
intake. You're basically making things happen, accepting these different cases. It's not an easy job in general. You're making a call whether or not it's a good case to bring in. And
Yeah.
the truth is, in the long run, you're still helping people, right? Because you're accepting a case is a big deal because you're getting people help.
Yeah, and I talk to people a lot still. You know, just on my drive out here, I was talking to a potential new client. It's an actual lawyer that has her own case, and she wanted to refer it over to us. So I was talking to her on the drive over here.
How do you feel? I mean, all these accidents in general, like you review all these cases, you find there's a lot of pressure or stress, or do you feel like it's a little bit of gambling because you don't want to waste time? You want a good case to come in. You want to help people. Do you find it stressful?
You know, I don't,
Because I'm the type of guy, I'm always trying to help everybody. Like I would be taking
you would take
every
everything.
case.
Yeah, and we can't do that because
Just manpower, money,
Yeah,
and
just
time.
It's just would be impossible. I mean, I was going to say earlier, Rick likes to call me the air traffic controller of the firm. You know, like you were saying, pretty much everything that comes in, I'm touching in some way. If it's a new case, I'm deciding whether generally speaking, I'm deciding whether we take it or not. I'm deciding whether sometimes we refer out cases to other firms that we work with, depending on the situation. I decide, you know, which lawyers are getting the new cases, generally speaking.
Why do you think there's so many? Actually, it's kind of a two-question thing. Why do you think there's so many car accidents in Vegas? Everyone says there's so many like lawyer billboards.
Yeah.
And there's so many accidents. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, a couple things. I've always heard that our market actually doesn't have enough lawyers, which is why the wages for new lawyers are really good compared to around the country here. And the bar is very, very difficult to pass in Nevada. So that helps keep but you wouldn't know that by, like you said, driving around here and seeing all the billboards. What was your original question?
So I guess why there's so many accidents? Do you think?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Well, I think it's just you've got people from all over the country and world here. I mean, I say country because of COVID. We don't have a lot of people from around the world here, but before that, you've got people from everywhere. You know, you got people moving from all over the country here. You've got people on vacation here. You've got people from all over the world. You just got all sorts of different people and different driving styles, and it's just I think it's kind of an aggressive town, you know. So
I always say that too. I mean, everyone's here from a different city and driving. And I always laugh because my dad, he's always like, everyone's driving crazy. They're doing like 80 miles per hour. They go down to 20. I think California is even worse because you're driving like 80 miles per hour, then it goes down to 10.
Yeah.
You know, it changes that quickly in general. But I think just everyone drives differently. People from Oklahoma and New York and LA, and everyone's basically a little bit of a melting pot here in general.
And you got a lot when you're talking about cases. I know you're asking about car wrecks, but you know, a lot of our business is premises liability cases, which are cases when you get injured on a property. You know, say you slip and fall at a store of some sort, or some other accident happens to you, and you got so many. You know, you got hundreds of thousands of people flowing through here every month in the hotels and casinos, and so we get a lot of business that way as well.
It seems like these cases in regards to like the slip and fall, it seems like it's very difficult with law firms basically to accept those cases. Like what makes a good premise liability, like a slip and fall? Because I know I talked to a lot of people like, oh, the lawyer didn't want to take my case. Like they feel it wasn't good enough, or, you know, like what makes a good case? Because it seems like a lot of cases don't get accepted because maybe there's no video, there's no witnesses, there's no reports. What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we take roughly about 25% of the premises cases that call in, so 1 out of every 4. And to answer your question, what we're looking for is the biggest things are, did the person seek? The biggest thing I look for is, did the person seek immediate medical treatment? Okay, if you have a slip and fall at a hotel or a casino or wherever, what was there? Immediate medical treatment? Did an ambulance show up and take you to a hospital? Because if so, they're going to save the video. You know, there's going to be an incident report. And
Documentation.
Documentation. So that's the biggest thing we look for.
So treatment right away, an ambulance if needed, basically really showing that there's an injury. Not that we're lying about it, but you basically, it's like it's like a case, like kind of a police investigative case. Like you're building a case, you're showing that there's a real injury, that you were injured that enough where an ambulance came or a medic came and basically documented there's a report, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah. And then we have a team of investigators that I send out. Like a case comes in that I think is intriguing. They say, let's say a railing, they allege that a railing, they went to grab a railing and it was super, super loose and it caused them to fall over. In an hour, I can have somebody out there and verify that for me. Mm-hmm. So we don't take on the case and
spend a lot of time and money.
Yeah, so we verify that stuff and send people out and get photos. I mean, ideally, when someone calls in with a premises case, we want to, hopefully they have video or picture. But if you fall down and break your leg at a store, you're not thinking about grabbing your cell phone and taking pictures of it. So
there's someone I spoke to the other day. They were saying that they basically walked into a convenience store and there was a mat and it was like next to an ice machine and it was wet. Mm-hmm. And she slipped and fell. But then they were saying that the lawyer didn't want to accept the case because she was wearing like beach shoes. So they were saying it wasn't like proper shoes to be wearing in a store, like the flip-flops. What's your thoughts with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we always look at is what kind of shoes.
So it's the totality of the case.
Was the person drinking? You know, if it's in the casino, we always want to know, were they drinking? If so, how much? You know, I was going to say the good thing about a premise, we take a lot of premises cases, a lot more than most firms, and we have a lot of good success with premises cases. The thing I always look at and we think about at the firm is, you know, in a motor vehicle case, you get hit by someone that doesn't have insurance or has a low insurance policy, mm-hmm. You're limited in your available recovery. Most people don't, it's a generalization, but a lot of people don't understand how insurance coverage works on motor vehicle cases. But my point is, in a premises case, 99% of the time, you have commercial insurance coverage.
So it's someone to go after.
You always have, there's money there to compensate your client, to let them have the medical treatment they need, to adequately compensate them. And so we like those cases.
Tell me how it works in regards to the big thing out here right now. And actually, I noticed the last 2 weeks in Vegas, especially the holiday season, mm-hmm. There's a lot more hit and runs that are taking place. Like people get hit, rear-ended, and they just take off, or they get a license plate number, there's no insurance. I always say these days, this is this weird thing to say, it's almost like the lottery. Like whoever hits you, depending upon their insurance policy, their limits, right? Mm-hmm. So if someone hits you with a $10 million policy and you get injured, like you struck the lottery, even though you're injured, to get better. Yeah. But if the guy has no insurance and you don't have proper insurance on your own, you're basically out of the luck unless you have your own health insurance.
Yeah, that's why it's important that people understand when you're buying your own insurance, you know, people say, I have full coverage. All that means generally to an insurance company is you've bought the state-required liability insurance so that if you hit someone and cause injury, you know, there's money there to compensate that person. But you can also buy what we call in the business first-party coverage. You can buy coverages on your own insurance that protect you if you get hit by someone with a little insurance policy, and we call that underinsured or uninsured motorist. So we always try to educate people anytime we can.
I always say it's such a weird word. It's like underinsured and uninsured.
Yeah.
And it's basically motorist insurance. It's extra insurance, extra coverage.
Insurance. Yeah, so
to cover you.
Yeah, let's say, just for argument's sake, I have $100,000 of underinsured motorist coverage, and you hit me, but you only have $25,000 in coverage. It means for the injured person, there's the 25 and then the 100. So you have $125,000 of available coverage. Now, maybe the person goes to the doctor for 2 weeks and they're all better. That's great. Send a demand letter, negotiate it, get the case resolved. But if you've got a broken leg and need surgery, luckily you protected yourself with an additional $100,000 because, you know, you're going to get all of that to compensate you.
You know, it's interesting. not that I was an insurance expert whatsoever, but I feel like I never really understood. I think most people, 95% of the people, do not know about insurance, that you could actually, when you buy car insurance, you're protecting the car, that you're protecting if you basically hit somebody else, and then you should be buying the extra coverage to protect you. But a lot of people, insurance gets expensive, right? So they're looking for the bare minimum. And I always remember, not that I knew what it was, I remember when I first came out here, I was trying to basically get a good insurance rate. I was dealing with Allstate or something, and I said, look, I think I get cheap insurance somewhere else. They said, well, let me look at your policy real quick. Like, do you need this thing called Medpay? And like, what's Medpay? Like, do you have your own insurance? I'm like, I do. Like, well, you don't need MedPay. Let's take it off, right? So they start dissecting your insurance policy, taking away that extra coverage, so it sounds cheaper. So when you basically look for insurance, you really have to compare apples to apples.
Right.
Because one guy doesn't have MedPay, one guy doesn't have the uninsured motorist or underinsured coverage, and the other guy does. So it looks cheaper, but they're taking away coverage.
Yeah.
So you really have to look and examine, apples to apples. I just think people don't understand it in general. And I think it's the first thing that people do is they ask that question. Insurance agents, do you have your own insurance? Yes. Okay, then you don't need MedPay.
Right.
But would you say in your experience from dealing with so many cases, people should have MedPay?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So the three biggest are, like I've mentioned. The first thing you buy is the liability coverage that protects you if you hit somebody and injure them. But then we always tell people you want to protect yourself and buy the uninsured motorist / underinsured motorist. And the third thing is MedPay. MedPay is essentially just what we call, I don't want to get too hyper technical, but it's essentially just fault-free money that goes to cover medical expenses. So let's say you buy $5,000 worth of MedPay, okay? You bought $5,000 worth of MedPay, you get in an accident, doesn't matter, fault, you go to the hospital, and your bill's exactly $5,000. You send that $5,000 bill to your insurance, they're going to send you a check for $5,000.
If you have your own insurance, do you use your own insurance first or do you use MedPay?
It's a good question. So typically how it happens is most of the time when you get in an accident and you're transported via ambulance to the hospital, they're grabbing your health insurance, and your health insurance is going to pay like your initial treatment. But then when we sign up your case and send you to any of our medical providers, as soon as you start incurring medical expenses with the medical providers we send you to, once, let's say for my previous example, you have $5,000. After going to a chiropractor and a doctor for 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to have $5,000 worth of medical. We just send those bills to the insurance and we collect the MedPay and add it to the settlement on your case. We actually don't take a fee on the MedPay money.
MedPay. What about on the uninsured and the underinsured coverage?
Yeah, we take a fee on that because you have to typically fight for that coverage. The insurance
So MedPay basically you're just getting like reimbursed.
Yeah, MedPay's send the bill and they'll send you the check.
Got it. Okay. Like I said, I think that any of the listeners and viewers basically, I think they need to review the insurance. And I know that your firm, the Richard Harris Law Firm, basically would actually review insurance coverages and policies. I know it's a free service that you guys do, which I think is great. So if anybody wants to review, they can call 702-04s, get the Richard Harris Law Firm, say they want to have the insurance policy reviewed. Yeah. Which I think it's nice that you guys do. I've never heard other law firms doing that.
Yeah. I'm happy to do that. I've done that many times for folks. So, and I always tell people, you're talking about I always tell people to always shop for insurance,
So what's your thoughts in regards to, so some people say, you know what, I don't want to use my insurance is going to go up. Like people never want to use their insurance because they think the insurance is going to go up. But the whole point is like, that's the reason why you have insurance. Like don't be so worried about using insurance. If you need to use insurance, you should use it.
Yeah,
right? I
always tell people, people that come in, it's rare, but some people come in and, they don't want to access their UIM coverage or their UM coverage. And I have to try to explain to them, why are you paying for it then? Why would you?
You're not going to use it.
If you're not going to use it, you might as well drop it from your coverage if you're not going to use it. And by law, the insurance companies aren't allowed. They're not allowed to raise your rates for making a first party claim on your UIM coverage or your MedPay coverage. The only time they can technically raise it is if someone's making a claim on your bodily injury policy, which is if you caused the wreck.
Got it. That's even if you have multiple accidents. That's a good question, no? Like if you have 2-3 accidents, you keep using the MedPay. It's not your fault.
Yeah, I mean, and
your insurance won't go up.
Yeah.
Got it. I mean, the bottom is I always say, like, if you have insurance, you're injured, you need the money. I mean, don't worry about the insurance. You go shop insurance policies after.
Yeah,
injured.
Yeah, I always tell people to shop insurance at least every 6 months or at least at a minimum once a year.
To make sure you're getting good coverage while saving money. Yeah. So just to recap, if you get into an accident, whether it's premise liability, which basically means an accident injury at a casino or someone's home, hospital, wherever you are, if you need an ambulance, take the ambulance if you really need the ambulance, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The biggest thing is you need to document your case. So sometimes folks, like if they fall at a business and they're transported via an ambulance and they go to the hospital and we sign them up, we have them go back and file out an incident report.
Because they didn't get the incident report.
Yeah, because they were injured on the ground.
Got it. So basically documentation, if there's security, wherever you are, try to document it, whatever business it is.
Yep.
If you are injured, go to the urgent care place, right?
Yep.
quick question for you. Someone said this the other day. I was confused. Someone said if you get into an accident and you have a regular traditional doctor that you go to, if you go to that regular doctor, and you say I got into a car accident, the regular doctor, your primary physician won't see you. That they would tell you to go to like a quick care place.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
Because they don't have time to like go to court for depositions.
Yeah, I just think that
it's more of an immediate trauma situation that they can't handle. They're more like primary.
Yeah, they're just primary. They're primary care. And I always tell people, some people come in and they say, I want to use my own doctor. And a lot of times it won't work because of that exact reason. But, we've been working with the same trusted doctors for, 15, 20 years that I've been there, and even longer than that for some of the doctors. And these doctors are really, really good doctors, and they handle personal injury cases, auto cases. You're presenting a case to an insurance company, and these doctors, they go to depositions on personal injury cases. They go to trial and testify. They know how to treat an injured client from a motor vehicle case and document it properly in their records. That's what I always tell people, and that usually convinces folks that they need to go to the folks that we recommend.
All right, so bottom line is documentation is really important. Photographs, video. What's your take on if you get into a car accident these days? Like, tell me if it was you. Like, you get into an accident, you're rear-ended. What do you do? Like, tell me the steps. Like, role play. You get out. You ask them for their insurance. You take photos. Like, what do you do?
Yeah, if you get in a wreck, the biggest thing is to try to get the police there. My understanding is these days the police will not show up if there's no injury claimed. Okay? So as long as there's an injury claimed, the police will come. I don't know what their response time is going to be, but if you're injured, let the police know that. And then obviously pull over and get to a safe spot if you can. And you just want to exchange information. You want to get the insurance. Hopefully the person that hit you would show you their ID, and at a minimum they would show you their insurance card. And you just grab pictures of both of those.
So basically, snap a bunch of photos, insurance. Yep. Take a little video of the footage of the scene too.
Yep. Yeah.
Do it safely, right? Like take video.
Yeah. Take video. Take a bunch of pictures of the cars. The more you can never have too much documentation. So
what happens if they don't have their insurance card? They don't have stuff. You're waiting for the police. How do you know it's like the real person? Like, what's your thoughts with that?
I mean,
you do the best that you can.
You do the best that you can. Worst case, get their license plate. Because we can run, DMV allows you to do a search that you can find out, who owns the car and what their coverage is.
And what insurance company? Okay.
Yep.
I mean, that's why I think that you need a good attorney to basically be on top of your game, especially when it's an accident. I know a lot of people basically call me and they're kind of shook up a little bit. And I'm like, get their information, take some pictures, take some video, document it. The only thing I find though, which is weird, in Vegas, I feel like the town's so busy these days.
Yeah.
Vegas Metro, and nothing gets them. They just take forever to come out to a scene unless it's something major.
Yeah.
But basically in Henderson, which is smaller, the response time is much quicker.
Yeah.
But I really do believe that you really need the police to come out, because these days I notice that people come out that cause an accident like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's my fault.
Yeah.
The police don't come out the next day when they call the insurance company like, oh, it's their fault. They did it. They're wrong. They said, you know what I'm saying? So when you have the police come out, they're looking to see what we call in the police world V1 and V2, right? Like the first vehicle is normally the one that's at fault.
Yep.
And V2 basically is the one that basically is not at fault. And I always say that you want to make sure that you basically are not V1. But sometimes you can try to sell the cop like, oh, this guy did this guy did that, and then sometimes people even switch the drivers and the passengers. If someone's intoxicated, they jump seats.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, that guy was the driver, and then the cop wasn't there. There's no witnesses. So I really do believe that I always believe that you should call the police and try to get them to come out to document it, especially if someone's DUI.
Yeah, but like you say, I see all the time. I see 5 to 10 times a week. The client reports that they tried to call the police, but they were waiting there for 2-3 hours and they just gave up.
Yeah, and a lot of people just leave. So I guess the biggest thing is that if you're going to leave, make sure you get documentation. And if you are injured, go to the urgent care right away.
Yeah.
Make the time if you're not feeling well to document the situation, plus to basically render yourself aid if you basically are injured or if you think there's going to be a problem.
Yep.
All right. What would you say? Like, you're the firm. There's like how many attorneys are at the Richard Harris Law Firm?
Oh man, I knew you were going to ask me that.
Like 25?
No, we're right about 30, 31.
Okay,
something like that.
So what makes a good personal injury attorney? Like, there's all these lawyers in town.
Yeah,
and like Richard Harris has been around for the last 40 years. So the bottom line is what makes this firm so special compared to all the other ones on billboards, right? Because everyone's got like a different gimmick and saying. I mean, Richard Harris has been around for a long time, and there's a lot of integrity with the firm. My question is, what makes that firm so great compared to other ones? When people, they're just seeing billboards and they see some guy smiling,
right,
or a girl smiling. Like, how do you know that this firm is the right firm?
Well, yeah, Rick's built a reputation for 40 years that's unmatched and unparalleled. And I always like to tell people, personal injury lawyers, we go through, like a lot of people, they have continuing education that they have to do through the year. And personal injury lawyers, we have about 15 hours we have to do. And that program in Nevada is called the Richard Harris Series on Continuing Legal Education. So when we have people that are kind of wishy-washy on which firm they're deciding to choose, I often will say, listen, Rick's been in business for 40 years. Every personal injury lawyer in this state is educated through a program that's called the Richard Harris Series on Continuing Legal Education. And that kind of, oftentimes people like, oh, wow, that's a good selling point. Another, obviously our results and just the people, the people we have are just the most incredible people, and that's a culture that Rick's built, for 40 years. I think that to answer your general question about what it takes to be a great personal injury attorney, Rick has this funny, and we all love it, obsession with pirates. It's like a pirate spirit, and I think about, as a personal injury attorney, insurance companies, they're taking everybody's premiums each month, and they're worth a heck of a lot of money. And then when you get in an accident or injured and can't work and can't provide for your family and can't do all this, they're looking to nickel and dime your potential recovery. And I look at it as, I'm an advocate for that person that's the little guy in the fight, basically. And we have that great spirit about that at our firm, that so many of our attorneys have that same.
I would say it's like David and Goliath.
Yeah, I mean,
Goliath is the insurance agencies.
Yeah, I take such a great amount of pride and passion in fighting for the little guy. I've done it my whole life with different things, and it's a perfect fit for me to be a personal injury attorney at this firm. I mean, when we have a great result on a case, we have a Jolly Roger pirate flag that we raise up in the front of the building. It's just an incredible vibe.
Win. Yeah, the win against
the
Goliath.
Yep,
the big insurance agencies.
Yep.
Question for you: it says over $1 billion won for clients. I noticed that was on some of the billboards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of money in general. I guess because of 40 years in general. But you guys seem like you're winning big cases in general. Especially, what's this one here? That's the second largest wrongful death jury verdict, United States, 2020. Is it 38 million? Right?
Yeah, that was a Ben Cloward case. And
he's a litigating partner for the firm, right?
Yeah, he's absolutely incredible. Benjamin Cloward, he is just a machine. I mean, he's one of the preeminent trial lawyers in the country right now, and he's got some very large cases and has had some incredible results. And he's a better human being, and he's kind of the
guru,
the litigation guru at the firm. So
it's important, basically, I would say, just from talking and listening to you, the integrity, someone like Richard Harris and Josh family, basically been around for a long period of time, been around a long time, doing this for a long time, looking at people's reviews and their results and these large verdicts, and someone like Ben Cloward and yourself, people that are running the operation, having a group of attorneys, basically, that care, that are making the difference, is really what makes a good firm. And that doesn't exist everywhere.
That doesn't exist everywhere. We have the greatest people. We're a big family there, and it's funny. I'll tell this story because this is sort of what we're talking about. But one of my favorite movies is Miracle, the story about the 1980 hockey team with Kurt Russell that beat the Soviet Union. And there's a great. I don't know. Have you seen that movie before?
I've seen it back then.
Okay. So if you recall, I'll try to tell this briefly, but if you recall, he picks the team, and the team trains, obviously, right, for a year and a half beforehand. And about 2 months before the Olympics, the coach, Herb Brooks, I think is his name, brings on a new guy. Okay. And these guys have been training together, living together, becoming brothers for a year and a half. Okay, and 2 months before the Olympics, he brings on this other guy. And there's a great scene in the movie where they've just finished a training game, like a prep for the Olympics, and the coach is out in front of the bus, and 4 of the lead players come out to him and say they want to have a chat with him. And he says, okay, what do you want to talk about? And they basically say they don't want the guy he just brought on the team. And he says, you're out of your mind. Why wouldn't you want him on our team? He's great. He's going to make our team better. And they look at him and they say, because he's not part, they basically say, because he's not part of our family. We've already built our family. This is what we're going to go and we're going to ride or die with at the Olympics. And that hits, you can tell it hits the coach hard, and he cuts the guy, even though he brought him in and thinks he would help. And that's, I liken that to the firm. We brought on someone several months ago, and I gave that story to them just because we'd interviewed them 3 or 4 times. You know, we're exhaustive about we don't just interview somebody once and hire them. We interview them multiple times because we want to make sure we're bringing someone in that doesn't disrupt the family. Is the point of that story, and that's what the firm is all about. We're family, and it's just a great place to work.
One of the last things that I wanted to bring up, we got about 6-7 minutes left. I wanted to bring up the one thing, the October 1st shooting, which was really struck, Las Vegas community. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to know your take on basically when the incident happened in general, in regards to lawyers. I remember lawyers posting that if you've been involved in and you were a victim or injured, and I was involved, actually somebody, I think, got shot in the head that I spoke with one time. But people thought it was crazy that lawyers were like jumping on the bandwagon. Like, lawyers are such sharks in general. Mm-hmm. Like, they're trying to make money, and basically it's a crazy guy. How do you stop why is it a crazy guy? How do you prevent that from happening? It's you can't stop everybody, in general. And they were upset. People were saying that lawyers are just trying to go after the casinos to make money. I just was curious on your take on that, because you're a lawyer, right? And sometimes lawyers they get a bad name of the shark, and basically you guys are doing great work at the firm. So my thing is, I guess the David and Goliath situation as well. Why is it okay to sue, basically like some of the casinos for the fact of that particular October 1 shooting? I mean, there's negligence or stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think just in general, I always say people, like you said, people think we're ambulance chasers and this kind of thing. And I thought that before I ever met Rick or Josh. When I think of personal injury lawyers.
You thought Josh was running around after the ambulance?
Well, no, I just thought personal injury lawyers in general, ambulance chasers. But when someone that calls us ambulance chasers, the first time when they get in a car wreck, all of a sudden, they're calling the ambulance chaser, So, I think that people just are entitled to be compensated for their losses,
pain and suffering,
when there's some type of negligence involved, and that's our job, is to get them as compensated as possible.
So the bottom line is like, it's acceptable basically to help a family if someone got injured. That person or the family member, if they have a loss, it's acceptable to basically try to. They say sometimes money is just the only way to basically get justice sometimes. Mm-hmm. And some people may disagree with that statement. If it's criminal related, right? Mm-hmm. Justice may be someone going to jail, right? Or basically if you get injured, you lose someone's life, right? You want, justice for maybe that person to go to jail, or if there was negligence upon one of the casinos, or they didn't do something, there's negligence that you want to basically be compensated for their negligence. And I guess sometimes what I will share is me being a cop for 17 years and basically practicing law on the street. Mm-hmm. You want to make changes, and sometimes if you don't hit hard enough the insurance companies, or you don't hit, let's say, the casino that's negligence, they're not going to make any changes.
Yeah, that's
the
correct.
Insurance company will go back and say, from now on, all the windows at all the hotels need to be security laminate film, or need to have an alarm when they hear the gunshot. Basically, an alarm needs to go off to notify security. And I don't even know what's there, but I know these days, right? There's a gunshot sound mechanisms that basically can be triggered, right?
Yeah.
There's actually cameras these days. Actually, I looked into when I was a cop, where if there was a gunshot and there's a camera, the camera would move and zoom into where the gunshot noise would be coming from, and try to zone into where that shot came from and maybe find the perpetrator, the suspect. So I know the security laminate film that could basically be on windows where it would prevent someone from basically shooting at 9mm or something like that.
Yeah, and I had a case, like I talked about earlier, I had a couple large cases when I was a brand new lawyer, and one of those involved a death of a child at a local hospital. It was all over the news, and like you mentioned, there was very significant changes that happened within the specific industry that case was about as a direct result of that case that's been for the better. So hopefully that issue never happens again, and a family doesn't have to go through what that family went through. And you say sometimes it's not all about the money. I had another case where a terrible case involving a death of a father, and we were able to achieve a really good result for the family. And he had 3 children, and those children, their college is going to be taken care of, probably their first house, and a significant, obviously that doesn't make up for the loss of their father, but at
least it gives them a better chance.
It gives them a better, that they're never going to
have a better chance if they had that father. Right?
They're never going to get their dad back, but their dad left a legacy for them to kickstart their life and get them on a solid foundation, for the next 20, 30 years.
I like how you said that, basically a legacy in regards to it. But the bottom line is that you're giving families a better chance of survival, and sometimes the financial situation will help them survive, especially if there's a loss of a loved one.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to mention quick, I forgot, I got sidetracked a little bit, but I always laugh when people think ambulance chasers and they make fun of us and stuff. I think we're the noblest profession, legal profession, because if you think about it, when you go hire some other lawyer, lawyers they call billable hours, and they supposedly keep track of every 5 or 6 minutes of what they're doing on your case, and then every month they send you a bill for that. Well, we as personal injury lawyers, we just take a percentage of what we get. So if we settle your case for $500, we're only taking a third of that. If we settle it for $500 million, we get a third of it. So it's a very incentivized. If we're terrible and do a terrible job for you, we're not going to get any money out of it.
It's funny. You're making me think about it. It's kind of like you're going into battle with that person, and for that person, and basically if you win, they win. Yeah. So there's more of like, you want to win, because if you don't win, you're not going to get anything.
Yeah, it's a very incentivized. I always tell folks, there's zero risk to hiring us. We're fronting all the costs that are incurred on your case, and if the case unfortunately goes south and there's no recovery, you don't owe us a dime. We're only recovering a third. Generally speaking.
And just to recap for people that are listening and viewing us as well, some people just don't even know this, but like lawyers, like criminal defense lawyers, probate lawyers, all these different lawyers normally have to charge basically money, billable or flat fees, whatever it may be, in order to basically get an attorney to work for them. Yeah. Fortunately, with personal injury cases, you're literally signing with a pen, basically your name, and asking for a lawyer to go to battle for you against the Goliath insurance companies.
Yeah, you get all that work, and you're not.
No money's coming out of pocket, out of your hand, and your signature is worth so much in that situation. The biggest thing is that the lawyer basically needs to feel that it's a case that he's going to want to pursue and that he can win. Otherwise, he's just chasing his own tail. Yeah. So, I do agree with you. I think it's amazing if you think about it. And now we're breaking it down a little bit slower to understand it. The bottom line is that you guys are really doing amazing work, and it's not costing money out of their pocket. So when people say, oh, they're taking a third, they're not asking for any money up front. Yeah. They're fighting a battle for you for literally for free until they basically win, which is a huge thing,
And it's not always just the fight against the insurance company. Think about, if you come to me with some catastrophic incident, you have a huge hospital bill, you're going to have your health insurance that paid that. They're going to potentially have a lien on your case and want payment for whatever money they paid out. There's all sorts of angles that it's really important to have a lawyer to guide you through and make sure that you're adequately taken care of and compensated.
Got it. So, you shared a lot of great information. So basically this is, people are going to be viewing this, and I believe a lot of these segments will even be cut up a little bit where people can see, a lot of people don't want to watch a whole hour. So there'll be 1 minute segments. So we'll basically maybe take some of these questions and get it out to the public so they basically understand how personal injury in the Richard Harris law firm basically works. Are there any unusual stories, anything that you want to add basically that may be interesting, or you want to educate the public, anything specifically? How many years totally practicing law now?
Wow. Well, I passed the bar in 2006, so that would be, what is that, 15 years?
Okay.
Something like that.
Any three things, any tips that you want to give? Anything specific? I know we went over a lot in regards to personal injury. Anything that you can think of? The bottom line is to call you. When you
biggest tip is
so
if you're injured, it's Chris Henderson, Richard Harris Law Firm. You can Google us, and the number is pretty easy to remember, 702-444-4444. You can Google me and just email me directly. My email's right on there. I'm happy to discuss any case that anybody has.
You could also text to all fours, right? People could text?
Yep.
Do you ever answer the call? Do you answer text messages at 3 a.m.?
Well, so...
Like, hey, give me Chris. Is Chris available?
Trust me, I've done a lot of calls. Sometimes if I'm up at 1 a.m. and someone calls in, I'll usually text that person because they're obviously up. They just called. And as I grew at the firm and in my initial years, I can't count the number of hospital visits or home visits I did, going to visit with injured folks and their families and telling them how we can guide them through a very difficult process that most people aren't very familiar with until they get involved in a wreck and realize they can't work or pay their bills or have a lot of mounting medical expenses.
Got it. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Hopefully you'll come back on the show in the future. Maybe if there's any major cases, next time we can, if there's cases that are basically public information that we could talk about, different cases, basically dissect them a little bit. It would be kind of fun to do. But anyway, I really appreciate you coming on the show again. Chris Henderson's available at the Richard Harris Law Firm. Can be reached at 702-all-4s. You can text, you can call, you can Google him. He's 24/7 basically working to basically help people basically get compensation for cases. So that's awesome. And I really appreciate all the work that you basically do for the good of the people in Clark County. As a retired cop, my goal is to help people just like you're helping people. I'm a problem solver, even though I'm not an attorney. You're basically solving people's problems by basically signing them up, getting them the medical attention that they need, getting them the help they need, and getting the support of 125 employees, 25 to 30 attorneys, basically a firm that's been around for 40 years. So I think it's just awesome, having you on the show. So I do appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Dave. Thanks for having me.
So again, I'm David Kohlmeier, the problem solver. Again, every single week we basically have amazing people like Chris Henderson here, basically that are really helping people solve problems, helping them fight battles, whatever they may be. We've had, a week ago, basically someone helping fight, cancer and trying to basically come up with medicine to help people, St. Jude's, all kinds of different people that are helping people. So again, thanks for joining the show. We basically have a progressive web app, which is theproblemsolver.vegas. If you basically have a problem, you can go onto the app. You can put in your problem. You could also call and text me 24/7, 702-400-7474. Again, 702-400-7474. Be careful. Stay safe, especially during the holidays. And I'll see you next week.